Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got the lovely Miesha Johnston on board. Miesha joined Melinda Leslie, Jocelyn Buckner, and Lorraine Fenton last time on a Milab panel. The interview went awesomely well, and the information that came out of it was excellent. So I highly ask you guys to take the time and review it. For those who never had the pleasure of meeting Miesha, Miesha is a certified hypnotherapist specializing in ET Experiencer Regressions, past life regression and PTSD and trauma recovery hypnosis. She offers Galactic Multi-Dimensional Sessions. She is a trance channel who speaks many Galactic Light Languages, and she facilitates many experiencer groups. She is a lifelong experiencer of 8 different ET groups, including Milab experiences. She facilitates 3 groups a week on virtual internet Zoom, Starseed Experiencer Support Groups, MK Ultra, Milab, Monarch, Montauk, targeted individual and ritual abuse. She has a weekly radio show Saturday at 12 PM PST on KCOR Digital Radio. Miesha is a part of a panel on Transcending Realities TV, has been interviewed on many radio shows, and speaks at UFO Conventions. She's the owner, operator of Victor 5 UFO Tours of Las Vegas, and has been leading tours in Las Vegas for 3 years with military-grade Gen 3 night vision goggles and high-powered lasers. She is the author of 3 books, Covert, Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control, and The Alert Butterflies, A Monarch Survivor's Story, and Galactic Planet of Origin. She is the author of an Experiencer Oracle deck, The Unimaginable, all available on her site and Amazon. So, Miesha, thanks for coming on again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Miesha, when it comes to your experiences regarding Montauk and Monarch, those that I've had the pleasure of interviewing in the past, those related experiences all happened at a young age. Did that happen to you as well?
Yes, mine started at 3 years old. Very interestingly, both my ET experiences started around that age, and the MK Ultra programming started at 3 years old. My father was brought it in. I mean, it's a generational thing. My grandmother was, and I'm not saying all Rosicrucians are bad, but this was a black magic kind of Rosicrucian sect. The best that I can figure out, because there was rituals and satanic and all of that in there. Even though my father was a minister, an evangelist, it's very interesting. So it was my grandmother started it with him. He was programmed, totally mind controlled himself, and then he carried that tradition on to the next generation, myself and my siblings.
So was it like a governmental thing? Did they approach your grandmother at the time and brought her into the program?
I don't really know that part, whether it was with her or not. I do know that my father, on his deathbed, when he was he had cancer, was dying of cancer, and he was in and out of a coma, and my mother had gone home for the first time she'd ever gone home, and she went home to change clothes and have a shower, and my father woke up out of the coma and grabbed my hand and said, "I'm sorry I did what I did to you. I'm sorry that I gave you to them, but your mother could not handle losing any more children." And so by that time, 4 other siblings, well, actually, 4, 5. There was 5 left, yeah. 5 other siblings had died. Because actually 4 had died. 1 died after me, I should say. 1 died after I was born. So, and they died in very odd ways, never living past childhood. 3 of them were like before they were even 2 years old or 3 years old.
Oh, wow. Because when you said that, I was expecting something might have happened during pregnancy, that she might have lost a child, but to actually go through, giving, bringing life to this world, and then having the child die not soon after, but 2 years, you said?
Yeah, one died of pneumonia, supposedly. Another one died of carbon monoxide poisoning, very strange, in a car. One died of a blow to the back of the head. Another one died of TB, tuberculosis, meningitis. And another one died of crib death. Actually, I'm sorry. The one that got hit in the head died of crib death. And then the last one was after me, was supposedly born dead.
Well, you realize that, those odds are quite impossible.
Yeah. Somebody would have been checked into if it had been at this time, yeah, it's very odd, very odd.
Okay, but what was the purpose of all of this? Do you know?
Well, I do believe that they kept trying and taking or trying to talk my family, my father, not my mother. My mother never knew anything about it.
Okay.
But to try to talk my father into giving up kids, letting them be used. And I think they were fighting it for a long time. I do believe he fought it for a long time. But then they would die. Now, were they killed? I don't know for sure. Were they killed by the program? I'm not sure. Did they, cause somebody in the family to do anything? Did they kill? I don't know. I just really don't know. I just know that there were very odd deaths for children of the age that they were.
But I guess your father probably thought that, the deaths were so strange that they might have been attributed to, an outside factor, that it's not natural.
He was very much that way. He felt that way. In fact, during, and really that's the only time I ever got to talk to him was with that deathbed confession. And yes, and he just said, your mother could not handle, I had to give them to you. I had to give you to them because your mother could not have handled losing any more children.
Okay.
And he also said, I'm sorry, I forgot about the rest. And he also said, at least we got to raise you. So, I think he thought what the lesser of two evils was, at least I would be in the family sometimes and he'd get to have a part of me versus having me killed, per se.
Okay. So, now, do you think this might have been like a soul contract thing? Because, I know you've had experiences with, ETs, and, you do have, I guess, some answers regarding to that. So was there like a pre-birth type of thing agreed to?
I've never checked into it.
Okay.
No, I've never checked into it. I have checked into, I did have this, but in 2000, when so many things had happened in my life, I had been, oh, so sorry, let me turn that off. I had been chased around and had many warnings of my life, and I'd been in 3 automobile accidents in an 8-month period, one of them with Melinda. Melinda and I'd been abducted and taken to an underground base and told that we must not talk anymore. So at that time I needed to know. I just didn't know what I was going to do, because I'll go into it all later about the threats and things like that.
Okay.
Anyway, I did go in front of a council and I asked them to help me. Help me. I can't do this anymore. And they said, beloved, you not remember you asked for this mission.
Okay.
And you must complete it. And I said, but it's so hard with all the things that are happening and have happened in my life with the MK Ultra and the Monarch. And they said, well, what we can do is help you cancel your contracts. Okay. So I did have a contract.
Okay. Yeah, we could get into more of that later on. Okay, yeah. We might have skipped ahead. So, okay, what happened with your father? How, the upbringing? I don't think certain things happened between you and him.
My father was my trauma-based mind control, and he was mind controlled himself. So when I talk about him doing the things he did, he was already split. His psyche had been split. He had alters, and so it was one of the alters that did these things. And I had forgiven my father a long time ago. But my father, the first time I realized what was happening, I was 3 years old, and about three. I could have been a little bit younger. I'm trying to see myself at somewhere between two and three. And he was, shall we say, he was torturing me. And he said, you have to learn how to leave. You have to learn how to leave and go someplace else. So I think he realized in his own life that, and he had horrific abuse when he was a child and growing up, and he talked about it. But I just thought it was a horrible, abusive family. But so, I think he realized that you have to learn how to leave your body and go out so you don't feel the pain, because he actually said that. I mean, he says, leave your body. He says, greater pain you'll have than you're having now that you'll have later on in life. So you have to learn how to do that and go out your body.
Okay. So how long did this last, the torture?
Actually, the torture started, when I was 3. I have very little memories. I don't have any good memories of my life, but I do have memories of going to Grandma's house and Grandma taking me to. She lived on Asylum Lane, and that's called Asylum Lane because there was a sane asylum there, Blackfoot Sane Asylum, and I would be taken there. She'd take me there. I can't remember my father taking me there. So I believe it was her, because I have these little flashes of this woman with this jet black hair was the one that doing it, and my grandmother had jet black hair, so I think it was her. And the asylum was later actually investigated, and they unearthed thousands of unmarked graves, and people can find that out on Google.
Was this asylum active when you were young?
Very.
Okay.
And so I was taken there, and there's the asylum there, but then there's also areas where they do with children, trafficking, torture, electric shock, desensitization, putting them in front of a screen with us. Because that was before TV, they'd put us goggles on us and show us these horrific screen things, like they'd start out nice, like maybe a cartoon, but then I'd turn into horrific things, murder, murder and ritual stuff, and dismembering people and horrific things. So that was there to desensitize. Now, what they do with electric shock and with drugs and with hypnosis, so they use all three of these things. I'm not, because I remembered my father would hypnotize me to go see butterflies. So sometimes I was being taken to the insane asylum. Sometimes I was being taken to a ritual ceremony that was in this big house, just a kitty corner from us, that had the deacons of the church in it. So I saw children there and horrific rituals there. And then sometimes I was taken to the asylum, and when I was, it felt like I was there for days and days and days and days. So evidently there was maybe a screen story from my father that I stayed at my grandmother's. I don't remember. I just know it felt like I was in there for days and days. I'd be in this little dark, tiny room with a little mattress, a little slit in the door. It was wooden, definitely wooden door. There was a little slit that they send in what they called food, which was horrific, awful food, and a toilet, and that's it. And when I'd ask for water or food, then they'd throw big buckets of water on me. So they use kind of water tortures and other things like that. Just about anything. In those days they were still. See, this was 1952, 3. They were still trying to figure out what's the best way to split people's personalities and split their psyche so that they can start programming these alters. and causing DID, dissociative disorder.
Wow. So you were talking about butterflies. So I guess your book's entitled "Those Weren't." They weren't butterflies.
They were butterflies.
Yeah. Okay. It's because
now you know why I called it that. No one knows that. It's the strangest name I could have ever chosen. But when it hit me that, my father was a hypnotist. He was a magician. He was a stage magician. He took 3 of the siblings on the road with him to do these stage things, a magic acts, illusions, mind reading acts, all kinds of things like that. In fact, he was very well known at the time in the Midwestern states. He traveled with the kids, sometimes during school, sometimes he'd just take them out of school. But anyway, they traveled with the kids. Actually, was it 3 or 4? No, it was 3 of them. Yes.
Okay.
He traveled with the kids, and he would use one was my sister, who was his assistant, and she would do the mind reading things and all his assistant. My other sister, which I'm going to be sending you another picture. It's a picture of the whole family in there. One little girl was my sister, and she was a contortionist, and she did work things. And she doesn't remember about much of anything. Okay. And then the other one was my brother, who was very intelligent, extremely intelligent young man. And he was the stage hand and built all of the props and things like that.
Okay.
So, in fact, it was so awful there for them. And I know that they had programming, and I know they had such horrible physical abuse. I do remember their horrific abuse that he gave them. And they both ran away. One ran away at 13, the boy did, and the girl ran away at 17.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So all of that abuse was to, like, I guess, like, dissociate or fracture their, the personality. But yes. What did they do with those, broken personalities? What did they do with it?
Okay, well, in my case, I was fractured into 3. They are all integrated now, but my identities did not really show themselves until I was a teenager. So all I know is in fact, I heard I do hypnotherapy, right? So I had a session with somebody who said that there was a program called the Mouse Program. And I went, wow, that feels just like me, because I was always in a corner. I did not want anybody to see me. I didn't want anybody to hear me. Everybody talked. They were very theatrical. The whole family was very theatrical. But when it came to me, I was terrified and an introvert, a total introvert. Uh-huh. So I may have had that kind of programming. Maybe that's where mouse programming began. Who knows?
Okay, but so when did I know you got married, but did anything happen before that regarding your programming?
Just all of the programming at the asylum up until I was. I did actually throughout that time, when I did go home, because I never saw any ETs at the asylum, but when I did go back home and I was home. And of course, when school started, they had to be a lot more careful. So I don't even know how they got me over there, because I remember so little of my childhood. I've done something like 19 regressions to try to get these memories back.
Okay.
So I had such little childhood memory, and I will say that if you are somebody out there that does not have childhood memory and comes from a family where there was trauma or that there was abuse, you should definitely look into it, because you could be in a program like me and not even know it.
Mm.
So
yeah, so
I did have ET. So we could go to the ET stuff if you wanted to now, or if you wanted me to continue going into that MK Ultra.
Yeah, well, let's talk about your marriage.
All right.
At what age did you get married?
Okay, so I found out the date. It was January 7th. Actually, I'm looking at the document right now so I can get the memory of it. But in January 7th, I went to college to check out college. There was a special thing going on there, and I went. I don't have it. I went to college, and I was in the cafeteria. A man walked in to the two people and myself that were there and said, "Hey, does anybody want to make some money? We have a dream study, and we just watched you dream. So you could come in and we'll just put you to sleep, and then you can dream and we'll watch you. And that's really neat. You make a lot of money. It would be something like what for now, probably over $1,000 or right around $1,000. So I needed the money for college. So I decided I was going to go. So the last thing I remember is going into a brownstone building just off the campus of the college, walking in, seeing people in lab coats, them setting me in a bed, putting me in a bed, hooking me up and saying, "Okay, we'll see you when your dream ends," or something like that. It was all so light and so nice, you know. Mm-hmm. It's called the driving program, and the driving program is a program that actually was started by Dr. Cameron in Canada. And they would put people to sleep for days, weeks, months at a time, and they would program them. So now I've already have my alters. All they need is my trigger words and stuff. So they would use the trigger words, I guess, and then they would program me. So throughout this time, it ended up being, the next thing I remember is 8 months later, I'm wake up and I am in a bus, and I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I'm looking at this bus ticket. I mean, I just wake up in the bus. I mean, I'm looking at this bus ticket, and then I go, well, that's my first name, but who's this person? And that's the last name of somebody else. That's not my name. How am I doing with this ticket? And so through the long ride back home, I started having flashes, and I had flashes about, first of all, I'd have a flash about really what happened. Then I'd have a program flash, and then a flash, and then a program flash. And because they program you. So my alter was coming in and out, and in and out, and in and out through that whole ride home. And so the first thing was, I had this thought that, I was married to a Navy Marine corpsman, and he didn't want to be married anymore because his parents said, if you get rid of your wife, we'll send you to medical school completely free. And so he sent me home. So that was the pat answer. And then I had a severe headache too, a very severe headache at the time. And I had this memory that, I had encephalitis, which is a brain disease of babies, actually, in those days. Those babies are the only ones that got it. So I had encephalitis, and I was quarantined to the house. Okay, so that's why I don't remember anything else. And then another flash came in, and I remembered a big mansion-looking house. And I remembered some horrific things going on there, such as the next memory I have is I see the mansion there. I'm in a bus with it's like a school bus with young boys from about 12 to 16 probably, and then or younger, actually probably about 11 to 16, and then young women my age, 17, 18 years old. And we were taken to the back of the building, and then I lost my memory. It was gone. That was all I remembered. And then I came back to another planned memory that said, "Oh, you were cleaning mansions. That's what you did. That was your job. You were a house cleaner, and these were a group of people that were cleaning, you know." So that's what came through. But then I went, but how come there's lights on and there's cars and it looks like it's a big party? And then my mind went back to the reality again. And what had happened is they took us up the back stairs. They dressed us girls up in really gowns and stuff. They kept the boys in the third floor, and they took us down to be party favors. Of course, the boys ended up being party favors, but not out in the public. Like with us, we were just dressed up so we'd look older, and we were to find certain men. There were dignitaries, foreign dignitaries, there were military, there was actors, music, in the music fields, there was Bob Hope. That's the only one I can remember. It's the only one that pops in my head, is the only one. Okay. And there was politicians, all kinds of politicians, and judges and everything, lawyers, politicians, congressmen, senators, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there were presidents from different countries as well. So, and they were all being entertained at this big party. And if you ever seen the show Eyes Wide Shut, which is a show that people who are MK Ultra or Monarchs really need to see, because it will trigger you, but it will also help you understand this was the kind of party it was. Of course, in Eyes Wide Shut, they said it was prostitutes, but it wasn't. Okay. That's not the kind of thing they did. It was kidnapped teenagers. So anyway, and then after the party, we were to, or not after the party, actually during the party, we were to take them up, and as alpha programmed, when you're, and I'm going to actually read it because it's always hard for me to remember, but I think it's going to help people who are going through this. And that's why I speak out about this, is to try to help people understand what they're going through. So there's the alpha program, there is a beta program. So the alpha program is the general program that is programs you to be, or the slaves to be photographic memory and record everything that the other alters see. And that's the alpha program. The beta program is the sex play program. And in that program, we are trained to be, and through this 8-month period and stuff, part of my training was to please somebody to the highest degree. There were sometimes, I know, children around, so there must have been child pornography as well. There was horrific things going on, and ritual sex, animal things, all kinds of weird stuff. And presidential models also, when presidential models are what they call presidential models, because we are used in the parties like I was at. So that I would be more of a presidential model, I would say, is what they considered me. The Delta program is assassination program, and trained in the assassination and espionage. So many times I was a spy, actually. I have one particular memory where I was taken to a plane. I got on the plane. I was picked up at the other end, and I was in Europe someplace. I was in some place where there were cobblestone actually drive. The whole road was cobblestone, and I was to walk up to a door, knock on it, and when the man opened the door, he said something to me, and I said, yes, it is a bright, sunny day. So that was my trigger, and then more information came. I gave him information that he needed of spy nature. In fact, this particular time was a country, this was a CIA program. It was a country that was supposed to be, their leader was supposed to be taken over, and I was to give the information about what was going to be happening. And then after that, I was savagely raped because they want to now do something that will make you forget about that. And then, of course, the wiping with the name, with the phrases and things. And then I got back on the airplane and went back to Seattle. Then there's the Theta killers. And this I have not known whether I do. I don't think I do. But Theta killers can kill people with their mind. So they can assassinate somebody and give them a heart attack or something like that, telepathically. That super soldiers are the ones that are doing that. They do the psionics mostly. So I don't think I had the psionics, or if I did, I haven't pulled it up yet in my memory. And then a gamma program is the deception program that alters are trained to deceive. They spread disinformation and, like, for instance, they'll be in places of importance. Our media is a perfect example of the gamma programming. Then spreading lies and non-truths. So, and then also the programming will come out when you're with a therapist and stuff. I had years and years of therapy because I knew I was totally messed up, and I had, but not until I had my first regression did I ever get through to what was going on with me. But therapists would, because I would deceive therapists, and not I. That would have been Darlene. Darlene was my, I think, the most active alter that I had. So I just wanted to, and then one last program, the Omega program, that is the suicide program. So most monarchs, which is what I was, don't live past 30, maybe in the very early 30s, because they either have assassination programs that they'll suicide themselves, or suicide programs, or they'll somehow, sometimes they'll be cutters, sometimes they'll turn themselves into psychiatric wards, so then they'll be lost forever in the psychiatric hospital. So that's kind of information that I think people need to know.
Well, the fact that you've endured so long and, you've gone through this, it really shows how your mettle, so to speak. You're very strong to be able, because I know the fact that, before I start, moving away from the subject, you got married, but you disappeared for 8 months at least, I think.
Oh, yes. I guess I didn't finish the rest of it, did I? Okay. Yeah, it's such a long story. So,
I know there's a lot to talk about.
A lot to. Okay, so put me back into so all these kinds of things continue to go on and happen and happen and happen. All right, through Saddle. I was in Bremerton Naval Base. I was up in Canada. I was taken to this island, Victoria Island, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still trying to piece together those things as well. But so back on the bus now, driving home. I got home and I called my parents and they came and picked me up. And by now my father's, probably in his 40s or so, and he's coming out of the programming himself, or they've got him in an altar that doesn't really know, because he changed after a lot of years. But at any rate, they picked me up, and my mother said, "For the love of God, where have you been? We've been looking for you. We haven't seen you since you got married, and Charlie took you took you God knows where." And I said, "Married? I'm not married." And then I remembered the flash in the bus, and I said, "I was married?" And my mother said, "Yes, you were married. And your father and I didn't like him." And my father popped up and said, "And I wouldn't even walk you down the aisle because you acted like you didn't act like yourself. Maybe you were on drugs or something. I don't know, but you didn't act like yourself. And we didn't want you to get married. And we just sent you off to in January the 7th to go check out things about the college. And then on January 17th, you contact us and say, 'I'm getting married to a Navy Marine corpsman. I want you to put an ad in the paper and announcement.' And I guess that's all I said, and I hung up or something. And they said, 'You acted strange then too.' And then they said, and then just a week later, we got an announcement in the mail that you were going to get married. And so on February, I think it was February 7th, I have to look at my marriage license. February 7th, you had the wedding. And so we came down to the wedding. And of course, your father wouldn't walk you. Mm-hmm. And you said, 'I don't care if he walks me down the aisle. I got my dress from my friends. I'll have my friends walk me down the aisle.' Said very, very flippant and very, very cruel to them. Also, there was something that was strange. that happened, and I have no memory of this either, of course. But my sister wouldn't come to my wedding because she said that she had been babysitting. I had been babysitting with Charlie, that the soon the to-be husband, through that time, and that I had when she came to the door, I met her at the door, and I said, "Oh, look, Charlie is so nice and things." And there was candles all over her living room, and she said there were satanic things, and I ordered you both out of the house and never to talk to you again. And so that I didn't remember. And I guess I'd even during that time appeared at a court hearing to try to take her kids away. I didn't remember that. I had a severe accident through those few weeks that supposedly I was in a boot, she said, because she lived in Pocatello where this all happened. And she said, and my memory of it is I remember having this cut, but it was done on a beach. Well, Pocatello, Idaho has no ocean and no beach. So it must have been they were taking me back and forth and programming me at that time, but I haven't come up with that. So, during a hypnosis session in probably the 89 or late 80s, my therapist was saying, "You need to remember your wedding. Wedding's very important to a girl. What happened with your wedding? Why don't you remember it?" And she said, I smiled at her, a very wicked grin, and said, "Because it's not her wedding, it's mine, and she's asleep like she's supposed to be." And she says, "Oh, okay, who are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm Darlene." And she said, "Well, when were you born?" She said, "I was born in 1953. So when I was 3 years old at that time. So that was Darlene, the first one. And she said, and she is asleep like she's supposed to be. And it's my wedding. It's my wedding. I'm getting married to Charlie, not her." And she was like really adamant about this. Then also during this time, then I had a flash during the regression of myself being back here behind that front altar. I was back here and I was seeing myself in a white wedding dress and screaming, "Please stop, let me out." So, because I knew it was not a good thing to happen. So indeed, he did take me the very next morning away. I even had a reception. My only wedding with a actual wedding, my other marriage, I was justice of peace. So I feel really cheated for not being able to have a wedding, you know. But anyway, so I had a couple of things that happened during the first part of that experience, and that was that I woke up and I must have been in a motel room, I guess, but I heard Charlie talking and saying, "Yes, I'll have her there on time. I'll have her there on time. Don't I always get the girls there? I'll be there." And then that was the last thing I remember. So that kind of hooked you up to that point. Then in the following year, it happened to me again.
But you were with him for a total of 8 months because that's when you got the ticket and you were brought back to you went to see your folks. Okay.
Well, I guess it was with him. I don't know. He could have just been my handler and dropped me off. I don't know. I don't have any memory being with him. I don't have any memory of his face. I don't have any memory of the quarantine that I was supposed to have gone in. I don't remember anything. One thing I remember about the quarantine that has come out, not quarantine, but the head problem, is I woke up one time and I was in the hospital and I was, my wrists were chained, my ankles were chained, and I had the most excruciating pain. I couldn't even open my eyes. I finally opened my eyes and I could smell, I could tell I was in a hospital room. And, so that was the only thing I had. So whatever they did, right. And then I remember some kind of thing in my spine. That's right. That was the other memory that came up. But I haven't done any regressions on either one of those to get more information.
Okay.
There's so much. I mean, I have 900 regressions to try to get to all these different places.
Mm-hmm. So when did all of this finally stop for you?
In 2000, well, no, not really in 2000. I got married in 79 to another man, but this man was my handler. And I will tell people about handlers. Handlers are people that will keep you down. Sometimes they're narcissistic handlers that will control you, abuse you, things like that. Most of the time, these people are also addicted and may be underprogrammed themselves. And so Jim was that. He was addicted. And I don't know that he was sent in. I don't know what exactly about him because I was with him for 20 years. But he kept me down. He was extremely physically abusive and sexually abusive and things like that. So he was keeping me down. He always made me think like I could never get away. And I finally got strong enough when I got to Las Vegas and started connecting with some spiritual people and some people from the ET Experiencer Connection. And I got stronger and I decided that's it. I'm done. And that was it. I kicked him out. And
Good.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot more to that story, but we're going to skip that because a lot of ET experiences happened in there at that house and before that. But actually, we haven't even talked about the ET.
No, let's get into that because you've had.
I mean, if they want to hear about the second experience, they can. That went all the way to San Francisco, Bohemian Grove, a lot of other things. So I did write the book. They weren't butterflies with all that information, so they can catch up there.
Okay.
So talking about the
ETs, yep.
Yeah. So my ET experiences started when I was 3 years old, oddly enough, at the same time that my programming and mind control and torture started. The first little guys that I saw were little fuzzy guys, and they had little hoods on, and I would hear them at night. I would hear this noise and the shuttling around in my room. I could also hear they had this little squeaky voice, and but I'd never seen them. And then one morning, I saw them hiding underneath the stairs from the second story, the stairs. And so I saw them in there, and I made friends with them, and they were my invisible friends from then on. They used to take me out flying, I think levitating up to the ship. I don't remember the ship, though. I do remember they taught me how to levitate and fly. And I was, in fact, one particular time, my mother found me, a 3-year-old, up on the mantle, and she said, "Get up there." What there? And I said, "I flew up here, Mom." And I truly feel like I did. I don't know. Maybe they put me up there. I don't know if I flew. But at any rate, some strange things happened, and they were my invisible friends for a long time. And I call them Bee Gees the Bears.
Bee Gees.
Yeah. But then when I grew up and I went to Star Wars, I saw them as the Ewoks.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one. I've heard this from at least 3 other people. Oh, actually women, 3 other women who have had encounters with the same little fuzzy guys, and that we realize that they're the Ewoks. But on the other side of that, there is something to it, and I can't tell you because I haven't done any work to find out, but the Ewoks are also seen out here at Area 51 in the military base, not the military base, in Area 51 in S4. So I don't know what the connection between the Milab, because I'm a lifelong Milab experiencer, and the ETs, but we'll someday maybe find out. So
after that.
So then the willowy one came into my life.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There was 3 grays that came into my life first. And they would come to my window, and they appeared like deers. So when as a child, they were about 4 or 5, I'd see them in the window, the 3 of them, and I'd know it was time to go because the deers are here.
Okay.
And so then sometime after that, maybe another year, maybe or longer, I met the willowy one. And but then I realized that the willowy one had his own grays. I don't know if they were the same grays, to be honest with you, but they were grays. I called them the little doctors, and the little doctors would take me out to fly to I talked to my parents about the little doctors too. And then the willowy one, I called him willowy one because he was very tall. He was much taller than the little grays. He was white, kind of an opalescent, like a pearlized white. In fact, his skin did kind of shimmer. He was very, really nice. He had big black eyes and barely a little nose and a bigger mouth than the grays did. He telepathically communicated with me, just like the BGs and the grays. They are all telepathic, communicate with you. They may make some noises, but most of the communication is telepathic. And one particular time, I'd had lots of experiences, lots of different experiences and such. But one time when I was 16 years old, I went to bed and woke up. I was out in a field. There was this big UFO on top of me, big round saucer. There was lights flashing around it, and it was just hovering up there. And I knew there was something behind me. I could psychically feel the energy, because I did have abilities. I did have psychic abilities, and I could interface with ETs and things like that. So I knew there was something, but I knew it was very tall. So it wasn't any little short grays. It was very tall. And that was all I remembered. Then I'm in the ship, and I'm getting a gynecological examination. And it freaks me out because I'm very naive, young and naive. And I start getting upset because these little grays are down there doing things. And so I started to get very nervous. And all of a sudden, the willowy one leaned over my head and said telepathically, "Do not be concerned. We're not here to hurt you. This is necessary for the hybrid program." Okay. That was I don't know, he didn't use the word hybrid, but I knew it was for the genetic program that I was to be part of. And indeed, I was part of that, and had in my marriage had several false pregnancies. Before I got married, I had an immaculate conception that I wasn't even anything, and I got pregnant. And in fact, I started hemorrhaging one night, and my sister-in-law, she took me to the hospital, and the doctor, when I got there, the doctor says, "What'd you do with the baby?" I says, "What baby? What'd you do? You had a baby. Did you abort the baby?" And I said, No, I wasn't pregnant. Yes, you were. In fact, they had to do a DNC because it was so far along. So that was the first hybrid. It was a failure, shall we say? It was a failure. And the ETs told me that later on, that some of the things are failures. Some do not work, some don't, depending upon the amounts of genetics that they put in and the types of genetics and the mixture that they use. Some don't. And often the first ones are a miscarriage. Now, but I don't know for sure, but I know later on I remember being presented this very scrawny little boy, baby boy. It could have been the one, I don't know for sure, but they put him in my hands, and he was just really limp, and he had bigger eyes. They were dark. They weren't like black or anything, but their eye pupils were dark. And he had tiny little features, tiny little features. He was so tiny. And I immediately bonded with him because I knew he was mine. And the willowy one, and then the other female, I'd say she would be the nursemaid of the nursery. They sent me a message that they were very, very happy that this was a success, and that they showed me other people who were given babies and that given children presentations, and they screamed or ran or dropped the baby or, and got away. So they were very happy I bonded immediately. So I was the right fit for the program. They were very happy I was the right fit for the program. And I subsequently did have another presentation of a little girl with blonde hair that was like just so weird and thin, like cotton candy. And she had big, beautiful aquamarine eyes and small, tiny features. And she was adorable. And she immediately bonded to me, and I bonded to her. I knew that she was my daughter. And
have you ever seen them after that? Oh,
no more.
So you never had the chance to name them?
No, you don't get the chance to name. I've since found out that there's some programs that are some dying races, the Zeta Reticular, one of them, that are using us as genetics to save their planet, shall we say, because they've gotten to a point where they could not have childbirth. They went underground, so they got smaller. Their eyes got darker. It was a big war and problems on their planet. But they couldn't have childbirth anymore, so they started cloning. But they cloned. But in this childbirth, in this evolution of them, they took every part of emotions out, because emotions is what got them into the place that they were in, and anger and greed and all those. So they thought if they take all the emotions out and do a hive mind of clones kind of thing, that they would not have the destruction again. But for some reason or other, they chose our planet, maybe other planets too, but they chose our planet as one of the genetic seeding places. So, in fact, there's a show called The Seeding that everyone should go watch. It's I think you can find it on Netflix, The Seeding. And some of the people that I've done hypnosis with and others are in that show. And it's a very interesting show about the hybridization program.
Okay. So when did the reptilians come into play?
Well, okay. So the first time the reptilian, I should have finished my story about the inside. I didn't do that. All right. So right after that time when I was in the ship and the willy one said, "Do not worry, I'm not going to hurt you." I saw off in the distance, and this was a large ship. It seemed so much larger inside than on the outside. But I saw in the distance 3 robed figures, and they were in kind of it was a reddish tint to the place, pinkish reddish, and they were in the shadows. And when I saw them, I immediately had this feeling of familiarity. And I said, I know you. And then one of them stepped forward, dropped his hood, and he was a reptilian. And when I saw a reptilian, I freaked out and passed out. No doubt about that. Okay. All right. So that was the first time I saw what I found out later was a very positive ET. So now I'm having a lot of ET experiences. I'm having all of a sudden I start in 1980, in my early 80s, I start being abducted in Milab experiences. Milabs are military re-abduction or military laboratory abductions. And in fact, this is what I'd like to explain, that and I'm going to just say there's 3 levels. So you've got the first level of military factions like this that it's all top secret stuff. But this first faction of military, the first level of them, the regular military, even the generals, even not generals, even the captains and things like that, don't know about what's going on in the underground bases. They think that it's back engineering and technology and things like that. They don't know about the genetic programs and some of the horrific genetic programs, shall we say, too, because there's many different groups doing hybrid programs, including factions of our own shadow government with other ETs. All right, so that first level, don't understand, don't know anything. It's not until you get to be a colonel, a lieutenant colonel, a colonel, generals, they're the ones that are in the need to know. So then now, your secret level goes up, and your ability to go into other levels of the DUMBs, deep underground military bases, changes too. So now, as a lieutenant colonel or a general, you're allowed into the thirds and fourth levels where the aliens are. And so I will tell you about my okay, well, let me finish off here. All right, so then those groups will question you. They want to know what happened. Why did they pick you? What is what about you is different? They test us for our genetics and things like that. So they're trying to find out what is the interest here that the ETs have in us and the different types of ETs. And then the nether level is the darker level. That is the shadow government level. And they're the ones that have more access to the other levels. They're the ones that are involved in things. There's not only just brass there, but there's every other kinds of soldiers and stuff. And some of these are really bad people. And, you know, they do gang rapes and they do horrific things. It's all about the mind control. It's all about trauma to make you forget. Trauma makes you forget. When you have a traumatic situation, the psyche cannot handle it and will make it forget. You'll forget it. So these were methods as well. They would interrogate you. They would beat you up. They would interrogate you with other aliens present. I, at the time, okay, so let me just briefly, I think that gives you enough information about that. They can now be in the bases, the levels with the Greys. They can now be in the levels with the Reptilians. They can now be in the levels of the genetics. They can now be in the levels of the trafficking, because there's trafficking in some of these too. There's child trafficking in some of these too. There's cages. I've seen Hell Alley with cages and with kids and with half human and half alien. And so there's so many victims down there. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying every single dumb is this way, but to my knowledge, what I saw, it's this way. So, let me get in my breath here. So, any questions about that before I go on to introduce you to the reptilian?
No, go ahead. Please continue. Yeah.
Okay. So while I was being in these reptilian abductions as well, that would take me into my lab experience. So I'd be taken by Gray, I'd be taken by military, I'd be taken by reptilians, and I'd be taken into underground bases. I've been in one in Arizona, New Mexico, California, and Nevada, different ones at different times. And one particular time, I was taken into an elevator, and there were other people there in the elevator. They were, this was in Las Vegas. They were in pajamas mostly, a couple in street clothes because we're a 24-hour town, right? And in front of us was a soldier with a gun standing at the door. And when the elevator stopped, the door opened, and he started shuffling along with another soldier that came up, started shuffling people one way and another people the other way. And when they got to a certain area, there was a group that was going off this way. They were going to these tall beige grays. So they looked like grays, but they were beige color. And then on the other side were men and women in lab coats and men in black uniforms, which are black uniforms is what I always saw. It was black fatigues and black officers' uniforms. They were black in color. With an insignia of, I can't remember if it was this way or if it was that way, but it was like that, like a pyramid kind of thing, but it might have been upside down, I'm not sure. And then there was like a squiggly thing, like you'd say maybe a snake or a dragon or something like that in it. That was what I saw on that level. So as they were taking this group away, I glanced with my eyes, because you were paralyzed, you could only walk, but you couldn't move your head. And I looked and I saw it was my son, who was 13 years old. So I knew from then on there that they were also taking my kids. And so I said, oh God, please help me. Send me somebody to protect my kids, please. And the next thing, it's not long after that, I get a visit from this energy that is an energy form. I can see an energy, a humanoid energy form. And then I don't really have too much memory about that at all, but that was that. And I felt that that was a protection, that they were answering me. But then I got another form to come up, and it was a blonde being. So one time I woke up and there was this blonde man, and he was gorgeous and stuff like that. And so then I saw people on the ship. So I saw humanoids on the ship. I didn't see humanoids in grays. I don't know if I can't tell you what kind of uniform they had on. They were probably military, but I don't know. And it may have been a holographic thing, like we call it. It's called neural interfacing or digital interfacing. Solaris Blue Raven gave me that wonderful terminology. It fits to the T. So, because you feel like sometimes you're in a holographic experience that is not real, So anyway, that was that experience. And then another important one was with a reptilian that I was walking down a hallway, and there was a reptilian beside me, and there was soldiers passing me. There was people in lab coats passing me. They always looked at me, but they wouldn't look at the reptilian. And I said to him, because I knew by now, it's been going on for years, so I knew by now I was interfacing with him, and I could understand him, he could understand me. And I said, why don't they look at you? They always look at me, but not you. And he sent back this first time I remember hearing his voice, or his energy, I should say, because you see and you feel and you hear. It's a whole completely different thing than talking. And he sent back this very strong energy that said, because they know better, they must honor us. They must honor us. And then he showed me imagery of two soldiers, one looked like he was going crazy and being drug off and taken off. Another one definitely being arrested because he looked in his direction. The other guy looked in his eyes. The guy that was just being arrested looked at his direction. So they have, that's their level. They're in control. They're in complete control. They're definitely draconians. But they're a different kind of draconian than I had an experience with later. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, that's happening. I have another experience where a reptilian is in the room with me, and I ask him, why are you invading our planet? What do you want with our planet? And he said, it's not your planet. You're the invaders. We've been here long before you. And then he shows me this imagery about dinosaurs and prehistorics running, and there's all these comets coming down. And I'm told, and I know by what he's telling me, that the comets are being directed as a weapon by a large ship and some other ways. And it is it's a distinction of this planet and the creatures on it. Some of them were intelligent enough to hide under, and were small enough to hide underground, and the others died. Then he says, and we have gone through evolution, and we have evolved to who you see before you. So Oh, okay. All right. So you think you're in charge and we think we're in charge. Who in the world is, whose world is it anyway? I'm thinking, I don't know. But I also have found out that there was a time when there were grays who were in control. There was a time, I think it may have been dated, but anyway, grays that were in control. There was a time on Earth that the reptilians were in the control. There was a time that we had Atlantis and Lemuria, and humans and were in control. So I'm not sure about that. All right.
So was there a war to, because this was an extinction event, so there had to be a reason why they wanted to, get rid of whatever was living on the surface.
Well, I will tell you this. I had a life there, 2 lives there, and one at Atlantis and the other one at Lemuria. And I was part of a group of peons, senseis, who had a big, huge quartz. It was pink quartz in front. Was it pink? It was a quartz. I can't remember the color. No, it was pink. And this quartz, we were stationed around it, and we were seers, and we could see things. And I don't know what else we did, but that's what so we were in the temple. Now, at the end of Lemuria and Atlantis, I'd say, when they both sunk, Atlantis, especially, now can't tell you about Lemuria, but Atlantis had become very decadent. It become like AI and artificial intelligence, and it was like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay.
That's the best way to describe it. Okay. And so I was there in the temple during this time in Lemuria, and we knew now that we were all seers. We were seeing that the Atlanteans were at the gates, which is, there's a moat area around us, but there is a huge a gate, and then a bridge, and then the moat, and then land and farming area and stuff like that. And they were to come in and taking over our planet, our world, or our town, our city, whatever. They would come to take over it. So everybody was jumping in ships and taking off. Lots of people were taking off. But we could not let them have the stone. The stone was a very important thing. So we had to destroy the stone. And the only way we could do it was with our minds. So 3 of us stayed behind to destroy the stone, so they could not have that extra powerful energy that they could use for all the evil things they were going to do.
Okay.
Now I died, and they came in and took over the world or the planet.
Okay.
I mean, it was on Earth, definitely on Earth, and so it's happening again. The cabal, the people that are taking over our world, are exactly like the Atlanteans. I know this in my heart and soul. Okay. And if we don't do something and raise up our consciousness as a group and tip the scales and stop this, we're doomed, like Lemuria was
again.
And Atlantis.
You were talking about the Draco and the Dumb. Now I've got a photo of one with a huge breastplate. Was that the one that communicated with you telepathically? Like a turtle breastplate, or? Okay,
now the one picture, that's Ayano.
No, it says Draco and Dumb.
Oh, Draco. Oh, yeah. That came later on. Okay. So I will tell that later on when we get to that point. Okay. All right. So now, now we need to find out about Ayano. I got to get you to there. All right. So one night I woke up. I'm just tell this one. I don't always tell this. For some reason, I feel like I can. One night I woke up and there was an energy above me, and I said, what's going on? Because it was above me, and it went off to the side, and I said, okay, I can feel your love, and I feel your kindness, and I know you're protecting me, but you don't look this way. You don't look like this blonde man. You are not it. Please show me what you really look like. And so then he did. And he changed his image, or had me see him like he really looked. I'm not sure which. And he became a reptilian. And he became a dark green, like avocado green. The outside of the avocado, and the inside of the avocado is the light green. That was this kind of a turtle shell that he had, similar to the one, but not the same kind. This is a reptilian. He's from, when I understand, he's from Sirius. But anyway, he had 4 fingers, claws, and bright yellow eyes, and a very kind face. And in fact, he had such a kind face that his picture is used all the time. I've seen it on TV shows, I've seen it and all over the internet, because he has this beautiful, kind face, and he's a very loving being. And I found out too that I had had 2 lives with him, 3 lives with him, once as a human and 2 as a reptilian.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so he was my protector, and he came to protect me. Because, there's no time in space and things like that. So that later on I had that meeting. They already knew I needed help, so they'd already sent him that. And so when I'd had that meeting with the Half Moon Council later on, and I might just go into that later, a little bit later. So anyway, I don't want to get ahead of everything. So what would you like to ask?
Okay, so let's talk about the events that came into your life. The protection, and because I think was that the first time you've ever seen him before? Okay.
No, the first time I seen him, I was 16. He was the same one that I'd seen in the ship.
Okay.
And he told me, we had that was that night that I was asking him all these questions, and telepathically he was telling me, he said, well, I'm from Sirius, and you can call me. And I said, what's your name? And he said, you can call me Ayano. You won't be able to pronounce my name. It's very long, so you could call me Ayano. And at that time, he showed me one of the lifetimes, and later on in a regression, I saw the other one. In that lifetime, he and I were reptilians. He came home from work. We lived in mountainside, very modern, but mountain homes. And he came to home, and he said, and by then I'd already heard the sirens and stuff, but he said, we must hurry. If we don't make it to the ships, we won't make it off the planet. The Draconians are coming. The Draconians are coming. They're going to destroy us. We have to leave. And we didn't get to make it off. By the time we got there, the ships were gone. So that was our first life. So he wanted to show me his first life. And he also wanted to show me that the Draconians and the Reptilians had been at war for eons, he said.
Okay.
So he protected me several times. One particular time when 2 of the Reptilians that would usually take me to the underground base or to on board a ship or wherever they would take me, whichever they were doing. But this particular time, they showed up, because they'll just appear. It's like they beam in, and then he beamed in, and then they looked at him and they beamed out. So for some reason, rather, they were afraid of him.
Okay.
And it wasn't because he's big. In fact, he told me he's an ambassador. He's a protector of our world and for me and others, but he is an ambassador. So he's not a soldier or anything like that. There's many reptilians that are much bigger than him, but he's still really muscular and stuff like that. So
I think you've had a child with him, right? According to one of your photos?
have, yes. Not with him,
yeah,
but genetics.
yeah.
So, well, okay. Another story came into my mind to tell you about that too, to help understand. But,
Sure.
But anyway, I was being given. Went back aboard the nursery. It was the same nursery. It seemed to be always the same nursery. It had a blue tinge to it. Sometimes I saw the nursery with the really small babies back there, and then the little toddlers, and then the older children and everything like that. But this time there were a lot of children walking around, and I said, well, which one's mine? And then the children kind of stepped aside and up walked this little more stocky with little boy with scales. He was a light green and he had scales on him. Very, 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 very thin scales. He had pretty little blue eyes and was beautiful. And I said, when I saw that it was a reptilian hybrid, I said, oh, who's the father? And they said, well, you call him Ayano and the All. And then they show, when they talk to you again, I told you they do it in pictures. So they showed me the All is many, many, many different genetics go in, especially when it comes to reptilians. Because reptilians and us, our genetics are not going to match without more the All coming into it as well.
Okay. Wow.
And then just a few days after that, I was taken to the nursery again and seen a lot of kids, some of the same ones, but mostly a lot of like 13 to 16 kids. And I said, okay, well, here we go again. Which one's mine? And they said they all are. So I had kids from about 16, 17, they look like, all the way down to little toddlers.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
I only thought you had one, but yeah.
Oh, no, I had a lot of kids. In fact, that's very normal because all they need is our eggs, and they can do genetics and reproduction, our whole life. People even if it hadn't been for me canceling my contracts, I might have still been having hybrids, or not having them, but being part of the genetic hybrid program, because women after menopause still are contacted and have hybrid program, hybrid children. Yeah.
But I wasn't aware that they were having problems with their genetics. Unlike the Greys.
Yeah. They were, remember, these are like Zeta Reticuli, I believe. And so they said the children are not they don't live past 16 or 17. So because the ones that they did 16, 17 years at that time, that would have been, 16 years ago, they probably tried to put too much of one group or the other, whatever reason. Every time I saw them, the older kids were skinny, just like straight down, skinny. It didn't look healthy at all. And so some of those children probably did not make it that they showed me. But then maybe, I don't know. I mean, I never saw them again, so I can't tell you.
Are you aware if the current hybrid generation can have children together?
Yes. Hybrid children are coming on this planet, and it's their mission to come on this planet to assist us in having these new amazing hybrid children. I've got some in my family, grandchildren, and they are going to be put in places of very big importance. They're probably already there. Mm-hmm. So I would say that there's a lot of people now maybe coming into the Congress or something like that. You see some people with morals, like the Congress and the Senate have done lack of morals. But you see a younger generation coming in that are different. Okay. And these, I believe, are the hybrids that are coming in. And they've been coming in for some 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about the 3 waves. So that really makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's really a 4th wave. And that's the 4th wave to me, is the hybrids that are staying on planet Earth, they use much less alien DNA and a lot more human. And this is the ones where your spouse, for instance, your spouse and you, like I have a son, I'm sure is a hybrid. So anyway, but your spouse's genetics are used, your genetics are used, and alien genetics are used. Okay. And so I think these are the hybrid groups that are coming in.
So you've had these experiences, and eventually you decided to come out and be public with this. Mm-hmm. So what happened with that?
Wow. Well, it wasn't very popular when I first came out with it. I came out with it in 1992. People weren't ready to hear about reptilians at all. And So they really thought I was just a crazy lady, really. That's really all they thought. And I actually spoke at conferences and told about my experience and things like that. So I came out. I didn't come out about the MK Ultra stuff, though. I knew it was not the time to come out about that because it would be very dangerous. Because in my life, I was having danger, along with this is when I'd moved to California. I had been doing my groups here, since 1990. And then I moved to California and I was supposed to do a whole nother mission, I thought, which, long story short, the people that went with me ended up being part of the programming and tried to get me into a psychiatric hospital for good. So that was another story. But anyway, so let me see. Where was I? So, so I was having so Melinda and I met Melinda, and Melinda and I we met at the conference, and we started speaking together at conferences. We started working on a book. We interviewed all kinds of people, men, women, military, ex-military, special forces, all kinds of people, because we wanted to show that, in fact, my book, which is called, Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. It was very similar to this, but we were trying to show that was happening and bring that out to the public. And I had been having my labs. She had been having my lab experience. I'd been having MK Ultra. She did not have that. We had been abducted together out of my house by men in black uniforms and night vision goggles. Long story short, I'm not going to tell you how they got us there, but anyway, they took us to a base. I was being interrogated. The guy, the colonel said, we told you over and over and over to stop talking about this, because we had been on a radio show, Art Bell radio show, and that really ticked him off too. And I tried to talk about reptilians there, and that, so they were very ticked off. And he's cussing at me and walking back and forth and said, "This is it. You've been told over and over again that you need to go home, find yourself a husband, and get out of this, because it's not going to bring you any happiness. So this is your last warning. And to bring the point home how serious we are, I want you to meet somebody." He walked out. The guy in the other the guard walked out too, and in walks this one that you said, the draconian, and that's the color needs to be a bit darker green, but that's all right. The artist was wonderful. David Chase has done a lot of my artwork along with Kasara, doing my artwork, and he's a bit greener. So when people see him, he should be greener. He did have this aloof, majestic gold air to him, a tint to him. And that's when I was explaining it. I think I put too much into that. And so that's why he turned out yellowish. Okay. But
before we continue, was this Milab event the one that Melinda broke your table?
Yeah, you want me to go through the whole thing? Yeah. I'll just briefly tell them that I didn't know anything about it until I woke up. We had been on the radio show, and then we were working the next day, and then the next night we went to sleep. I woke up, she was sleeping on my couch. I came out and I saw my coffee table broken. I says, "Hey, Melinda, how did my coffee table get broken?" And she says, "I don't know. I didn't break it." And then she had to go on home, and she lived about 80 miles away. And then she started feeling the same way I did. I started feeling like icky. I felt like something's wrong. There's something happened. And so we both had regressions and separately, and then came together afterwards and found out our stories matched. And so that's when we both ended up on this dumb, either somewhere in San Diego, let's say.
So they busted your door because you gave me a photo.
That's right. They busted in. In fact, they wanted us to know that they'd busted in. They wanted us to know that they had cut the seal on my door and they'd gotten through. And so they wanted us, as part of the fear tactic, so we both shut up. So anyway, he walked in. Okay, so the soldiers walked out, and the brass walked out, and I'm back down in the dumb, right? Okay, and so this alien walked in, this reptilian walked in, his tail swishing, and as he came up to me, he bent down, looked in my eyes, and showed me this horrific image of killing my family. Let's put it that way. Okay, so she had the same thing happen, only it was slightly different for her. He was tearing her apart and killing her. So I would let her tell that part of the story. So we both had this very similar experience. And through this time, there had been things. I'd had 3 automobile accidents, and we'd had this incident was like the second to the last incident. And then I had one more incident where a man came in and told me that he knew my granddaughter, and be ashamed if something happened to my granddaughter or your sons. And I said, how do you know anything about my granddaughter? And he said, oh, we know everything about them. We know their routine. We know everything. You know, they pick up and find people's bones in the desert all the time. Mm-hmm. So I decided to quit. So I quit. So I went home. On my way home, had my 3rd automobile accident when I was shoved off the road by an unmarked van with eyewitnesses and a police report. And then that was my second one. That wasn't my third one. That was my second one. And then I went home and I told my family I was quitting. I came back because we're running out of time, so I'm trying to make this fast. And that was when we came back, and I was hit broadside after getting my rental car. I was hit broadside with my rental car and spun around, and the guy got out, looked like he was a military, and he said, you caused this, you know, it's your fault. And then my eyewitnesses that saw the wreck said he ran the light, like he looked like he did it on purpose. So I knew they were serious, so I quit. I quit for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And then I started back. Let's see, in 2011. Okay. 2011 I started.
But and they would approach you during karaoke, I think?
Oh yeah, they did. You know, I loved karaoke, and so I'd be at the bar, and a complete stranger would say, "You want to sing?" or they're talking to me, or buy a drink or something like that. I was single, you know, so but they would always say strange things like, right out of the clear blue sky, without me talking about anything, they'd say, aren't you worried that your talking is going to get you into trouble? Aren't you worried about talking about the things you're talking about? So I knew it was messages, and that's how they send messages. In those days, anyway, that's how they did it. Now they target you with psychotronic warfare.
Okay.
Which actually brings me to the closing part of what I'd like to share. I would just like to say quickly that I do groups, or maybe we'll do that at the end, whatever. I'll just tell you this part. Okay, so just to let you know, I looked this all up on a government website, so these things are real. So they have directed energy weapons that they use. They have, of course, they've got different kinds of electric shock weapons that they use, the tasers, the stun guns, the stun batons, electric belts, things like that. They have waterboarding that they use. They have water cannons that they use on people. These are now not the waterboarding, but the others are all they can do remotely to you. They can do it to crowds. That's what they're talking about in this whole website, is talking about crowd control and everything like that. All right, so they can do that. They can also use water cannons in the crowd control. Remotely, they can do directed energy weapons and weapons that emit energy aimed direction into the means of a projectile. They have a non-lethal and a lethal one that's called slow kill or silent weapon, which is happening to targeted people all over the world. They have a directed energy weapon including electromagnetic weapons, laser weapons, microwave weapons, and psionic weapons, and plasma weapons and beams. So these are all things that they can actually go into your internal organs, which they did with me when I was about to release both of my books. They put me in the hospital, and because they target your internal organs, and they caused me to have acute
Appendicitis?
no, acute pancreatitis.
Pancreatitis. Okay.
Acute pancreatitis.
Yeah.
They'll also cause people to have heart attacks, or they think they're having a heart attack, and then they do have a heart attack.
Mhm.
That was the first thing that happened to me. I thought I was having a heart attack when they started shooting me. And the paramedics said, they put me on an EKG, your heart's fine. Everything seems to be fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm going, but I'm feeling this agonizing pain in my chest. And so I thought that was it. And they said, well, why don't you just have a glass of wine and get some food and you'll be fine. And they left.
Oh.
But the weapons came back on again. And this time they targeted my pancreas. And so they put me in the hospital for 10 days. But I still got my book. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I got my book published. And then my second book was the same kind of thing. And they attacked me again, same kind of way. But I got my book published when I got out of the hospital. That was for 5 days. So they can do this. They can put people in the hospital. They can cause them such agonizing pain. They can psychotronically come into their mind and make them think they're in some kind of an astral dream, or that, as I said, that neural interfacing and digital interfacing. So there's horrific things they can do to people. So there is the drones. The drones are a way that they do this. Drones have powerful they're so powerful, these electromagnetic radiation, that they can penetrate the human skin and make this nervous system feel like it's on fire. And I do remember a particular time where there was somebody that was with me, and she thought she was on a fire. And so they have the active denial system. It's a non-lethal directed energy weapon. These are also military, of course. They have the drone doing different things now. It's all about human targeting. They have the pulse-directed energy weapons, and they come from the satellites. That's why they're putting up all these satellites, because they want to take out more people. They want to cause more people this horrific targeting. And then they have the Dazzler, which is a directed energy weapon that can go from a truck. And they use these Dazzlers in the military. They also have voice to skull that they can use on people. If people think that either they're going insane, or they call different things like that. Like, in fact, I will tell you, during Desert Storm, when they wanted to get the Royal Guard out away from Saddam Hussein, and they were using that program on them to voice to skull to make them surrender.
Really?
So, yes, absolutely. They were thinking that Allah was telling them to surrender. And they said it enough. They programmed them enough with this voice to skull that they started coming and surrendering, coming out of the caves and surrendering. So then another method is they use in Hollywood, lots of Hollywood stuff they use for, my goodness, I can't even read that. So, but anyway, different kinds of drugs they use, fentanyl and other kinds of drugs. They've, taken out, but all of a sudden my pictures have gone all weird and I can't read. Isn't that funny? Okay, so they Prince, Michael Jackson, Heath Ledger, they're using those drugs to kill these people, because these people are voice, like especially the artists, the singers, they have come out and talked about these things. So they put them down about that and will kill them. And of course they have the genetic engineering, the transhumanism that they're doing, and the AI and artificial intelligence itself is not evil. It's how they're using it that's evil.
Okay.
Yeah. So that gives you that information, and I think that's it. That'll be it.
Yeah, I want to get back to, before we finish, the way that you were able to have all this stuff stop
Mm.
was you calling out to the universe, to your star family, to make everything stop, right? That's when
Yes.
the council came in.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I was beside myself. I was at the end of my rope. They were going to kill my family. I knew that. I didn't know what I was going to do. Right after I took everything over to Melinda and said, Melinda, I'm sorry, I'm out. You're going to have to do it all. I can't do anything. And she continued on. Bless her heart. She continued on. She never got the book written, but she's done lots of wonderful work. But I went to the beach and looked over a cliff and said, get me out of here. Get me out of here. I can't do this anymore. The only way I'm going to save my family is you get me out of here. Yeah. And I end up being taken by Ayano up into a ship. I'm in a half moon. There's a half moon desk around me, a panel. There's all types of different ETs. There's some that have energy, some that have shall we say, like that aura energy one that I was telling you about. They have that. There's a reptilian. There's a couple of. There's a Zeta Reticula. There is a couple of. There's an animal-looking thing. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And then there's three human-looking ones, and and I think there's one more. One looks just like a Pleiadian, yes. And the other one that does most of the communication in my mind and does most of the talking, except that when they do talk, they light up. Either their chair lights up or they light up. I can tell when they're talking telepathically. And he says to me, I said, I'm done. Please take me home. I can't stay on planet Earth anymore. I want to come home. I want to come home. And they said, beloved, do not remember you asked for this mission and you must complete this mission. It's not over. You have much to do. And they said, but let us talk. So I could see, this is where I mean, like the lights. I could see them talking back and forth telepathically with the lights. And then he comes back to me and he says, we can help you cancel your contracts. So they did. They helped me cancel my contracts, which was all of my contracts, which was all of my physical contracts, so that I can't physically be taken anymore. I can't do things to my body. But I lose my connections with all of my ETs. I don't have any more onboard ship experiences. I don't see my kids or any of my hybrid kids. Everything's cut off. But it was the only thing I could do that I felt at the time. I was so desperate. So, it didn't exactly completely end because things were done. They still couldn't come to me. They couldn't kill me. They couldn't harm my kids and my family. But what they could do is send people in, and they send a rapist in, and that was pretty awful. Okay. And so they sent other things and did other things, like the people that they controlled to try to get me in the psych ward and things like that. But for the most part, you know, I'm I'm good. I'm good. Let's get it that way. Okay. I'm good. And the more I've come out, the more they've backed off, and the more you come out, the more they will back off. Okay. If you have a story, you tell it. If you have a story, you scream it you write it down, you write your book. It is so important that everybody, because this is raising our frequency. I know listening to the horrific things like this doesn't seem like it raises your frequency, and I don't want to bring anybody down. But if I can survive what I did, and so many other people can survive what they did, we can. We are very powerful, strong beings. We are spiritual beings, galactic beings having this human life with this vessel, and we can overcome. We are eternal. So people need to remember that. And so I've gone on with my life, and all of that is behind. I still will talk about it when people want me to, but my mission now is to help as many people as I can through my hypnotherapy and my galactic sessions, and giving them understanding of what their planets of origin are and things like that, giving them readings that way, and the hypnotherapy for trauma release hypnosis, and all of the horrific things. I have a lot of secret space programs, super soldiers, targeted people that come to me. And that's my mission. And my biggest mission, of course, is to provide these free groups that I have 3 times a week on a Sunday. Every Sunday, that's a mixed group. Every Wednesday and every Thursday, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Wednesday and Thursday. And I have many different kinds of group. Everything, all of them are specific subject matter of any of the above, which is Starseed Experiences, ET Experiences, Milab Experiences, MK Ultra Monarch, Montauk Experiences, PTSD and the Secret Space Program, and all of those kinds of experiences, targeted individual experiences, SRA and child trafficking experiences, reptilian experiencers, negative and positive, Galactic Light Language. I teach a class, but I'm not teaching it right this year, to help people use their channeling abilities for Galactic Light Language. And because our galactics talk to me all the time about they're waiting and wanting people to communicate with them. They want you to speak their language. They want to communicate with you. They want to channel messages to you. They want to protect you. They want to save you, but you must ask them to do that. They will not interfere. It's non-interference, but I will tell you, I have asked them, I have begged them, and I've got some kind of protection. Ayano is my protector. Nobody messes around with him and his group, Arcturians, Pleiadians, Syrians. So you too can be protected, but you have to ask. And if you're having a dark night of the soul, please have a meditation, work with and ask for your galactics to come.
Do you want to get into your oracle deck and your
oh, sure.
Really quickly?
Quickly, I'll get into the oracle deck.
Yeah.
I have 2 decks. I have one is for ET Experience, and it's I do these oracle decks. I do readings with them, of course, and you can do readings if you purchase them. The experience ones are all about the ET experience, a little bit about my lab. The other deck is the unmanageable. It's ET Experience and the unmanageable, and that goes into things like handlers, as I was talking about my handlers. And by the way, every single relationship I've had has been a handler. So that's why I'm alone. I've decided to stay alone for the last 10 years. I'm much happier this way. So all kinds of different topics and stuff, everything from Starseed to Secret Space Program, Super Soldiers, Joint SSP, Archons, everything you can think of. So that's that, and those are also on my they're on my website, starseedawakening.org, along with my 3 books, my 2 cards, and
the Galactic Origin Chart.
The Galactic Origin Chart comes in the book. It's in the book.
Oh, sweet.
So it's in the back page of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
So all you need to do is, when you purchase the book, you just cut that out, get it laminated, and then you can have one like this.
Beautiful.
Yes, and I know a lot of readers who have purchased these to help them with their reading and things like that.
Okay. Well, Miesha, we've been at this for over 2 hours.
Oh dear. Can I tell you one other thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
My UFO tours.
Oh, yes.
Through Airbnb, and also my website, which is UFOnightwatch.com. You can book CE5s with me, and we go out, we look at the stars. I tell you about the stars, and I talk to people. I do readings for them out there. I talk to people about the history of the government and how their connection to why they don't want to disclose and things like that. I meet people through Airbnb that I would never, ever get a chance to meet otherwise. So it's a way to meet and reach more people and shift their paradigm. In fact, last night I had 4 people, 2 couples, and they said to me, I can't believe this has been a life-changing experience. I've kind of believed in ETs, but now after having this experience, seeing them and hearing you, my paradigm is different. And I said, yep, that's what I like to do. I'm a paradigm shifter. So that they can find that. And that's, my radio show.
Yes.
Radio show is on Saturday at 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I bring all of my people in my groups to tell their story. I mean, I will talk to researchers, but I prefer talking to the people who've really experienced it.
I've been on twice.
And you've been on twice? Yeah. Yes, you have.
Yep.
And I've had a lot of researchers on too, but I really love people to come and talk about their experience and everything. You can talk about anything on my show. And it's through KCORradio.com. So you can contact me through Starseed Awakening ET Contactee Group and Experiencer Group on Facebook, Starseed Awakening Group on Facebook, or MK Ultra, DID, Secret Space Fighter, Super Soldier, and the rest, SRA, Nordic Individual. You can find those 3 groups I have. And I also have pages too that you can go to that have Starseed Awakening pages as well. Okay. So that's me. Come join the groups. They're free. They're 3 times a week, and you will never be the same as when you get out of isolation and start sharing your experience and learn from other people and know that you're not alone, and find a family, because I know how hard it is. I lost my family, the ones that died, and then the other ones that have turned my back on me. But I have my sons. That part of the family, but my siblings are all pretty much gone now. And so it happens with everybody. So please join the groups. Yeah,
I've been to your groups a few times, especially in the beginning. It was really important. It really helped out.
It is. In the beginning, it's very important for people. And now that I have all these different groups, you can go and tackle each one of the things that are happening to you individually in these groups.
Okay. Well, Miesha, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Yannick. It was really an honor. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you made a difference, and you're still making a difference. So thanks for your service. We need more people like you. And to those,
there's a lot of people coming up that are like me. Lots of them coming up like me.
They are. So those who had the chance to watch, hope you enjoyed tonight's show. More interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.